Hello and welcome to this week's Women's Football Chat. My name is Chris Gadsby. I'm here every Thursday at 6 p.m. bringing you the very latest from the third and fourth tiers of women's football here in England. That's the FA Women's National League. I'm back from my holiday, landed at about 4 a.m. this morning, so going on just a few hours sleep, recording this one for you today. Hope you enjoyed the two previous pre-recorded episodes. Again, a big thank you to Mike from Stourbridge, Gemma from Merseyrail, and Ben from AFC St Austell for speaking to me over the past couple of weeks. We're now ready to get straight back to the main event, which is the FA Women's National League season, which starts this Sunday. We're going to start with a bit of the news that I've been able to pick up while I've been over in Greece. So apologies if I'm missing a few bits and pieces, but there is still plenty to talk about. So, we have had the draw for the determining round of the Cup and Plate competitions. This is, if you don't recall, is all 72 sides playing a game on the 11th of September this year. If you win, you go into the Cup. If you lose, you go into the Plate competition. Now, we'll cover all of the fixtures for that closer to the time of the 11th of September when those games are. But there are some good fixtures in there to go and have a look at. So they're all on the FA Women's National League Twitter account if you want to have a look at those. And by now, the clubs have all retweeted it and spoken about who they've got as well. So we're going to start looking at this weekend. Now, one thing I should say is do check with your side before you go to the game that they are playing and are playing where you expect, because a lot of this news is about different venues and postponements already. So, for example, West Bromwich Albion, they've changed their venue for their first two home games of the season. So they're not where they would normally play those games against Forest and somebody else who I've forgotten off the top of my head. But they've changed venues, so do check with West Brom so you get the right postcode and end up watching them. The same goes with Swindon Town, whose opening game has also been moved venue. So do make sure you check before you travel where your team is going to be playing. Also, great news for fans of Loughborough and Stoke, because they've got a double header to start their season off. So they are having a joint kind of opening day with West Ham versus Liverpool in the Women's Super League, which is a great idea. So we've got the Loughborough and Stoke game and the West Ham Liverpool game on the same day, same place, and you'll be able to watch both of them with one ticket. Also, more news in terms of media coverage building off the back of the Women's Euros. Another great idea. I know a couple of other clubs do have this with various other stations, but BBC Radio Derby have announced they're covering 15 of Derby County women's games this coming season. That's every single away game plus a few of the home games as well. Will be full commentary on Derby County women's games. It'd be great if all of the sides could get some kind of affiliation with not even necessarily BBC, but some radio station, help to bring it to a wider audience. Lastly, with bits of news, we've got a couple of games that have already been called off for the opening game of the season. They are as follows. There is Hounslow against Ashford Town. That game has been postponed, as too has Moneyfields against Maidenhead. So again, just check before you go to your game that it is definitely going to be on, because we have had a couple of postponements already. We know we've had the heavy rain, which particularly on some of the pitches may cause a waterlogged pitch postponement if we get more of this rain and these flash floods before the start of the season on Sunday, which is not ideal, but normally it's in winter time I'm talking about all of the postponements and games, but we've got some before the season has even started. But the season does start on Sunday, as I've said, and we're going to now have a look at those opening day fixtures before I get on to the questions that I've been asking you over the course of this week so that I can get a bit of an idea of what your thoughts are heading into the opening day of the season. So let's start with the Northern Premier Division. So these are all the fixtures coming out on Sunday. Boldmere St Michael's against Huddersfield Town, Derby County against Burnley, AFC Fylde against Brighouse Town, Liverpool Feds against Wolverhampton Wanderers, Loughborough Lightning against Stoke City, and West Bromwich Albion against Nottingham Forest, starting the Northern Premier Division off. So newly promoted side Liverpool Feds, they host Wolverhampton Wanderers. Probably one of the toughest opening games you could have as a newly promoted side. Boldmere St Michael's also hosting on the opening day. They face Huddersfield Town. Southern Premier Division, Billericay Town against London Bees, Cheltenham Town against Plymouth Argyle, Crawley Wasps take on Milton Keynes Dons, Ipswich Town against Portsmouth, Oxford United against Bridgewater United, and Watford against Gillingham. So newly relegated side Watford, they start with a home game against Gillingham. Billericay Town and Cheltenham Town, the two sides up from Division 4, face London Bees and Plymouth Argyle respectively. Moving through into Division 1 Midlands, Leafhead Athletic against Leek Town, Lincoln City take on Doncaster Rovers, Northampton Town against Wem Town, Sheffield against Stourbridge, Solihull Moors against Long Eaton United, and Sporting Cowser against Peterborough United. So Sheffield, down from the Northern Premier Division, take on newly promoted Stourbridge from Tier 5. And another big fixture in there from this weekend, Lincoln City against Doncaster Rovers. Two of the sides that were right up there at the top with Boldmere St Michael's last season. They go head-to-head on the opening day of the season. Northampton Town, the other promoted side, face Wem Town, who only just survived last year. Division 1 North, Bradford City against Middlesbrough, Chorley take on Barnsley, Leeds United against Hull City, Merseyrail against Newcastle United, Norton Stockton Ancients against York City, and Stockport County against Durham Sestra. So those are the 6 fixtures. Newly promoted Merseyrail host Newcastle United, who make the long trip across the country. That's going to be a tough opening fixture for them. And then elsewhere, of course, as well, York City, the other promoted side, take on Norton and Stockton Ancients. Bradford City against Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough, one of the relegated sides from the Northern Prem last season. And Hull City, the other relegated side, make the trip to Leeds United. Division 1 South East, AFC Wimbledon against #United, Actonians against Chesham United, Cambridge City take on Queen's Park Rangers, Cambridge United face Norwich City, Hounslow against Ashford Town's postponed, as already mentioned, and Wyndham Town against London Seaward. So Wyndham Town hosting on the opening day of the season. They're newly promoted side, of course. Ashford Town not playing against Hounslow relegated side. Chesham, first game in the new league as they moved laterally, if you remember. Actonians away for them. And AFC Wimbledon against #United. Again, two of the sides high up the table last season, and they will be fighting it out on the opening day of the season. Finally then, Division 1 South West, AFC Bournemouth against AFC St Austell, Cardiff City against Portishead, Exeter City take on Keynsham Town, Larkhall Athletic against Southampton Women, Maidenhead United against Moneyfields is postponed again, as I've mentioned, and Chelsea take on Swindon Town. So newly promoted AFC St Austell travel to AFC Bournemouth on the first day of the season. You heard from AFC Austell Ben Cooper last week. Newly relegated Cardiff City, they host Portishead, and Keynsham Town, another relegated side, have to travel to Exeter City, who one of those sides, along with Bournemouth and Southampton Women, right up in the mix last season. So it'll be interesting to see how they do early on at the start of this season. But those are all the fixtures coming up next week. Of course, this episode is going to be slightly shorter because I haven't got results, scorers and tables to look at as well. But what I asked you for this week is who you thought was going to score the opening goal of the FAWNL season. Of course, 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So we had something from Nick, who just sent me a gif of two wolves howling, which is not surprising from Wolves fan and one of the hosts of the Wolves Women podcast. If you are interested in Wolves and don't already listen to the Wolves Women podcast, make sure you do. Then Harry, who's Block 45 Line on Twitter, he says London Seaward are going to score the first goal of the season. And Mark Lancaster, MEWL63 on Twitter, who says, back with a point to prove, Holly Turner of Billericay Town. He reckons that she will get the opening goal of the season. But that will about do it for this week's Women's Football Chat. Again, apologies that it's a shorter one. I got back home at 4 a.m. this morning and I'm currently going on 3 hours sleep. So apologies, it's not quite been as lengthy and perhaps put together as well as usual. Normal service will be resumed next week. We'll have all the reaction from the opening day of the season, the early tables, see who sets an early pace, and we'll look ahead to the next week's fixtures as well. Of course, as I say every week, keep supporting your local women's football team. Make sure you follow them on Twitter. Check all of the details before you go, because we are seeing some new venues popping up as teams go to places with bigger capacities, slightly closer to the men's stadium. There's some double headers, there's some postponements as well. Make sure you check before you go to your game. It'd be great to get down there on Sunday and kick the new season off with a bang. Thank you very much for watching and, of course, listening as well. This show is available on audio streaming services as well as on YouTube. I'll be back next Thursday at 6 p.m. with all the reaction to game day 1 of the FA Women's National League. But for now, goodbye.